and Jason is out of town and has already received that resolution. We have a second resolution honoring a retiring city employee, and that's Kimberly Davis. I'd like to read that, please. Whereas Kimberly H. Davis was employed by the city of Morganton as public safety officer trainee in the Public Safety Department on March 22nd, 2005, completed field training and promoted to public safety officer on May 15th, 2005, promoted to PSO special assignment, special operations on November 17th, 2015, changed to a PSO special assignment community service on September 10th, 2018, changed to public safety officer patrol on December the 5th, 2018, and whereas Kimberly H. Davis has faithfully served and given of her time and effort for the benefit of the citizens of the city of Morganton and state of North Carolina for 28 years and 7 months, and whereas Kimberly Davis retired from the city of Morganton as a public safety officer patrol in the Public Safety Department on June 1st, 2023, and whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Kimberly H. Davis and express their appreciation for a job well done, now therefore be it resolved by the city of Morganton that the mayor present this resolution to Kimberly Davis, adopted this 5th day of June 2023. Ronnie Thompson, mayor. Sally Sandy, city manager. I'm going to ask Councilman Chris Hawkins if he'll make that presentation, and ask Ms. Davis to come forward, please.
Chris Jernigan?
Chris Jernigan, excuse me.
I have it. I guess you'd like me to. Run it over here. When I walked in, I asked Kim, what are you doing out of uniform? Kim, I'm honored to give this to you, but I've got to be honest, it's with great mixed emotions. It's, we're all really happy for you, but we're sad for the city of Morganton and for those of us that are citizens that love to see your smiling face when you're around. I've never seen you, even in dealings with folks, that you weren't smiling and being very professional. And we greatly appreciate 28 years, 7 months. It's a lifetime. And of course, it's a family tradition with you. Your father was sheriff in McDowell County and a great man as well. And we just want to say thank you and how much we appreciate all your years of service. Look at these guys. You can tell how greatly we appreciate you and how much you're admired. God bless you. Thank you.
Kim, would you like to say something? I'm going to call Chief to come up and talk about you. So if the chief will come forward, you've got the first shot, okay?
I want to say again, thank you to the city council, the city of Morganton Public Safety. They made me a part of their family.
Yeah.
I'm not crying. But thank you.
We do thank you for all your service. Chief, would you come forward,
love it.
please?
I'll be good.
Okay.
No, we just want to take time, thank you, council, for recognizing Kim's contributions to the city of Morganton. But it's going to be tough that we lose, I want to say, an old school soul like she is, an old soul, because she always had that canny ability to calm down even the most angriest of people out on the field. And that type of training, that type of experience is hard to replace because you only get there by having traveled there in those boots. And so, yeah, we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to call on city manager. I believe she has a request.
So I guess Jason has the weapon, right?
That's right.
So I guess the first thing is we need to adopt the resolution, don't we?
Do I have a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I need another motion, please.
I'll make the motion to declare a weapon Glock Model 45, serial number BSTF749, and Carnus Model 1044, serial number 1044FH24, fire services helmet as surplus, sold for $1 and presented to retired PSO Kimberly Davis.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sally?
And I am buying that for you for
Thank you.
$1, and it is my honor to
Thank you.
get to do that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kim, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month. I'd like to read that proclamation. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Morganton, and whereas Parks and Recreations promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreations promotes the time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorder, and Alzheimer's, and whereas Parks and Recreation programming and educational activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development, and whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the city of Morganton recognizes the benefits derived from Parks and Recreation, now therefore be it resolved by the city of Morganton and city council that July is recognized Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Morganton this 5th day of June. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor, Renee Carswell, City Clerk, and I'm going to call Butch McSwain if he'll make that presentation. Ask Brian Fish if he'll come forward.
Saw Brian moving, so I thought I'd get an early start.
Okay.
Brian, it is delightful to present this to the department. Do you remember when they started this?
I do not.
Okay, well, I do. Unfortunate. And it was quite an adventure or a process to get this approved nationally. But the NRPA and the NCRPA both did a marvelous job, and thank you very much. It is great to honor one of our departments, which does shine, and it's still respected across the state. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Brian, would you like to say? Go ahead, Brian.
Council, city manager, I'd like to say thank you. And just for the month of July, we hope to have some special programs, offerings. So just keep an eye out, and hopefully we'll have those July this year.
Question on how many youth are in our softball, baseball program right now?
We finished up this week. We had 325 participants this year.
Wow, great job.
It's amazing.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is another proclamation. Whereas the Chesterfield Ruritan Club was chartered on April 10th, 1958, with 23 original members. And whereas the Chesterfield Ruritan Club assists the elderly and needy in the community with food, clothing, hospital bills, and other basic needs, award college scholarships to local students, donates the clubhouse for school and community activities, promotes and volunteers at the annual Burke County Fair, partners with school on fundraising projects, provide a free senior citizen supper, holds a free annual health fair at the clubhouse, completes community roadside cleanup, and provides members with timely and pertinent information through guest presentations at monthly meetings. And whereas the Chesterfield Ruritan Club turned 65 on April the 10th, 2023, and celebrated with an anniversary luncheon on Saturday, April 30th, 2023 at 2 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Morganton encourages all citizens to give full regard to the past and continuing service of the Chesterfield Ruritan Club. Be it further resolved that the city of Morganton congratulates the Chesterfield Ruritan Club on its 65th anniversary and extends best wishes as its members continue to contribute to the betterment of this community. This, the 5th day of June, 2023. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor. Renee Carswell, City Clerk. Do I have a motion to accept this proclamation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. I'm going to call on Chris Hawkins if he'll make that presentation. And one member or all members of the Ruritan can come forward.
Aye.
Oh, all in favor of the motion say aye. Okay, motion passes. Now, we can do that, Chris. Mike, come
Come on,
forward.
y'all.
Somebody.
Oh, Mike, come on.
He's gonna drag them all.
That group's not bashful.
Yeah,
Come
y'all all
on.
better get up there.
But you're wearing the uniform.
We get,
Oops.
got our national director here, got our lieutenant governor here. Where's the governor?
That's awesome.
Governor here. We've got the, not an original member, but pretty close. The most member of our club right here.
That's fantastic.
Mike, can you make some introductions so we'll know who's here?
So, we have Larry Garrison, who's the national director for Ruritan. We have Shandy Gossett, who is the district governor for Western North Carolina. We have TJ Harrison, who is the lieutenant governor for the Western District. We have, let me see here, we have Charles Duckworth, who not only is the treasurer, but he is the senior member of our club right at this moment. Pardon? Bryant Lindsay? Yeah. We've got Bryant Lindsay, who is a board member for us. We have David, not Gossett, David Denton, who is a member, and we also have Linda Bandy, who is one of our newer members, as a matter of fact. So we've got quite a contingent of members here today, and we're glad that they all could come, especially having the national director and our district governors come for this was memorable for us.
That's awesome.
That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. 65 years is a long time for a group or organization to be together. 65 years is a long time for anything, for anybody to do anything. But more than the 65 years is what Chesterfield Ruritan has done during those 65 years. And some of the things that were listed, that our mayor listed on the proclamation, assisting the elderly and needy in our community with food, clothing, hospital bills, and other basic needs, providing college scholarships to local students, and donating your clubhouse for school and community activities. Thank you so much for what you've done to improve the lives of the people in our community. And on behalf of the city of Morganton and Morganton City Council, it is my pleasure and honor to provide this proclamation to Charles. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another proclamation. I'd like to read that, please. Proclamation for Juneteenth. Whereas January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be then henceforth and forever free. And whereas President Lincoln correctly believed slavery to be in violation of the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and that its abolition resulted in a new birth of freedom for the United States. And whereas June 19th, 1865, almost 2.5 years later, Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of both the Civil War and slavery with this announcement, quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation of the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free," end quote. Whereas Texas began the celebration of Juneteenth in 1866 with community events, and as freed families immigrated from Texas to other parts of the United States, they carried the Juneteenth celebration with them. And whereas June 10th is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery, and whereas June 10th is an important opportunity to join with people across the nation in celebrating the good news of freedom and the end of the evil of slavery, a bill was signed by President Joseph Biden on June 17th, 2021, to make Juneteenth a national holiday. Therefore, I, Ronnie Thompson, Mayor of the City of Morganton, do hereby proclaim June 17th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day in Morganton. And furthermore, I call upon all citizens in this community to gain knowledge of and join in the celebration of Juneteenth in Morganton. Proclaim this 5th day of June, 2023. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor, Renee Carswell, City Clerk, to have a motion to accept this proclamation.
So moved.
To have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. The motion passes. Going to call on Alicia Conley and Ruth Roseborough, I think, to come forward, please.
Oh, there she is.
It makes me proud to be able to present this proclamation to both of you, and for you and your committees to take the time to bring this history to our community and to give an opportunity of celebration. And I think the community really appreciates it. And I've always been at the beach this weekend, and I'm here this time, and so I'm really looking forward to it. So congratulations, and there's one for both of you. Thank you. And please, if you would like to say something.
It is an honor for the Burke County NAACP to accept this proclamation. And we, on behalf of the NAACP and the citizens of Morganton, we say thank you. And we invite each of you, Mayor Thompson and the City Council, and each of you that are here to join us on June 17th as we commemorate this historic event. Come out and unite with us as we celebrate, as we reflect upon the contributions, and as we feel the power of the day. Join us in making this a momentous occasion for the city of Morganton. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. I would like to be a little more specific. The Juneteenth celebration will be held on Saturday, June 17th at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Comma. The third annual Juneteenth brunch will be held Saturday, June 17th at 10 a.m. at the First United Methodist Church. That theme is going to be The Journey Continues and will feature multicultural performance and several speakers, including Dr. James Hunt. Our Human Relations Commission is a sponsor for both events. We have another announcement. The Morganton City Council, along with the Human Relations Commission, would like to recognize June as National Homeownership Month. This month recognizes the legislation and programs that will help citizens achieve the American dream of home ownership. National Homeownership Week began in 1995, was extended in 2002 for the period of observation for a week to the entire month of June. Another announcement, the Morganton City Council and the Human Relations Commission would like to recognize June as African American Music Appreciation Month. We honor African American musicians, singers, and contributors who have created, inspired, and influenced this rich part of our natural history. The Jammy Jam which will be a multi-arts festival, will be held on Saturday, June 24th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the corner of Bouchelle and East Union Street. Have an announcement that a public meeting hosted by the Western Piedmont Council of Governments in the City of Morganton Council Chambers will be held Tuesday, June the 6th, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the Greater Hickory Metropolitan Planning Organization draft for 2050, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Anyone's invited. There is no charge. That's from 4 to 6 on June the 6th, which is tomorrow. A community workshop. This is very important. The Imagine Morganton 2040 comprehensive plan will be held in council chambers on Wednesday, June the 7th from 5:30 to 7. It is drop-in and an open house format. And I have one other announcement.
Before we do that letter, I think we have a second proclamation for Juneteenth and for the brunch for Artie, I believe. Don't we have
He asked me
two
to
of
give it out
those?
to both of them, I'm sorry. So one of those just needs to go out to Artie. Okay. We can do that.
I would like to announce that our legal attorney here has advised me that I did not call on public comments. We did not have anybody to sign up, so that's why we didn't do it. Renee, thank you so much for catching that. Thank you so much. We have a letter to Brooks Kirby from the city of Granite Falls.
Well, it's from us
From
to
us
Granite
to Granite
Falls.
On Wednesday, May 17th, 2023, we experienced a large power outage due to a tree falling over power lines. We had 3 broken poles and damage to 2 other poles. It knocked out about a dozen stands, resulting in 100 people losing power. It says that our his line supervisor did not hesitate to send our line crew to Morganton to assist. we offer our heartfelt appreciation to the city in time of our need.
Yes, and I need to explain that, so our crews were working that, but our crews had worked the night before in switching over the hospital in their construction project that's going on. So we ran out of our ASHA hours and could not continue to work. And so Granite Falls came to help us to get this taken care of, which we appreciate.
Yes.
I'd like to call Artie Logan back up, please, for an announcement.
Or she's just responding.
Just
to this.
responding.
Except,
Thank you. Thank you, Artie.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to accept this proclamation. I want to thank you for your continued support and your participation. The Juneteenth, 3rd celebration, well, we don't call it a celebration, we're calling it recognition, will be held, as your mayor has already said. The purpose of this is, we call it the journey. The journey continues. We feel like we need to remember the past as we live in the present so that we can prepare for the future. So this is what we call the journey, and these special topics will be discussed. We'd like to look at it as more of an information and educational sharing, and hopefully a plan. I have a young man, and those of you that came last year that heard him give a plan for the future, it is awesome. He's 15 years old, and he has a vision. They've always said a man without a vision can't have a plan. This young man is awesome, and he gives us a plan that can move us into the future with harmony, equality, and acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have some upcoming events. We have Art in the Hall, Tim Ambrose and Al Rayner photography. It'll be on display during the months of June and July. Our farmers market will be every Wednesday through October from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 111 North Green Street. And our farmers market every Saturday through October 23 from 8 to noon at 300 Beach Street. Our TGIF Friday night free summer concert series, food trucks and the beverage tents will be open at 6 p.m. The concerts will begin at 7. Friday, June the 9th will be Mac Arnold, which is American Blues. Friday, June 16th is going to be Brandon Bell, which will be country music. Friday, June 23rd will be Radio Ready, which is a top 40 group. Friday, June 30th, Thomas Anthony and Live House Band, which is rhythm and blues and soul. There'll be no TGIF on Friday, July 7th. Friday, July 14th, Scott Moss and the $100 Handshakes. And Friday, July the 21st, Throwback Collaboration Band. And Friday, July 28th, YM2K. Another announcement, Dogs on the Catwalk and Porches on Parade is Saturday, July the 1st.
pooches.
Pooches on Parade. It's one of those days, okay. Dogs on the Catwalk and Pooches on Parade, Saturday, July the 1st, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Courthouse Square. Our College Street Recreation swimming pool will be open on June 9th, and Martha's Park and Martin Luther King Park splash pads are currently open for the summer. And finally, people are asking about the 4th of July fireworks. There will be a fireworks display on Tuesday, July the 4th, 2023, with a projected starting time at 9:45, depending on the weather. Fireworks will be shot from the grounds of Freedom Park. The park will be closed to the public to ensure safety of the operators and the public. People wanting to see the fireworks should find parking in the parking lots of nearby businesses along Independence Boulevard, Wamsutta Mill Road, and North Green Street and 181. There'll be more details to be released closer to the July 4th holiday. Next on our agenda is Municipal Power Agency Number 1 update.
Yes. I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Next, we have a consent agenda. I believe there are 8 items. Sally, would you cover those, please?
Yes, I'll be glad to. And the consent agenda does include 8 items. And for those of you viewing at home, I will go over those briefly so you'll know what we're asking the council to pass in one motion, unless someone would like to remove an item and have it discussed separately. So we have minutes from from the meeting held on May 1st. We have the regular minutes from the regular meeting and then a closed session set of minutes from that same day. We have the appointment of one person to the Western Piedmont COG Sister Cities Committee, and that person is the mayor. We have appointment of a tax collector and approving a resolution to adopt an order directing the tax collector to collect taxes. That is Jenny McNeely, and I know that is weird, but that is required by law. And then a resolution accepting the dedication of water and sewer easements at Murphy's Farm. Acceptance of a grant award from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for stormwater planning, and that's $400,000. A resolution authorizing us to accept an ARP grant from DEQ, North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, for the Silver Creek Pump Station, and that is in the amount of $1,118,247. An amendment to the Community Appearance Advisory Commission ordinance establishing a quorum, changing that from requiring 6 members to 5 to meet the quorum. And then approval of a contract with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments for professional assistance with planning. And that is a contract for 2 days a week for someone from the COG to work with us for 13 weeks on planning.
Do any members of council wish to have any items removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, Butch, was that a question?
No, I would like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, do I-
Because as we all heard, there was several amounts of money being received.
Yes.
And I like doing that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, I believe
The moment everybody's been
Yeah.
waiting on.
Oh, yeah.
our next item of
Right.
business is the proposed budget for fiscal year 23-24. Sally?
I'm really sad the room cleared out because I know everybody was excited to see Kim retire, but I thought half of public safety had come to hear me speak. So it is that time again, and we are getting ready to talk about spending some money and collecting some money. And every year I kind of look forward to this, honestly. I'm sure everybody else doesn't, but I think it's kind of awesome. And it's a product that takes a lot of hard work. And lots of people are involved in it. And I've got Jesse helping me so that I don't get this messed up. So we will start. So 23-24, hard to believe. The budget proposal before you tonight is $95 million, and that is compared to $87 million this year, about an $8 million increase. And that is largely due to some capital. Back at our workshop, you know, we talked about a lot of capital projects. That has been shaved down some, but there's still some significant capital projects in this. I will tell you that the other thing that's in this budget that I didn't even think about until we were done, for the first time in years, we actually have interest earnings again, and we have over $300,000 budgeted in interest earnings that we believe we're going to collect on our savings. And that's awfully exciting because we've gone a long time without talking about that. No secret to you in this, just like at home. We are dealing with inflation. You have recently passed budget amendments for fuel, for supplies and utilities. You're going to be looking at some more in a couple of weeks for the year end. Lead times on materials and trying to get parts and equipment and everything else is still very, very difficult. Again, material charges for fuel increases in that, and it just continues. So the budget includes partnering with the partners we have had for a very long time and continuing to fund those. And we won't go through all those. I will tell you that Burt Development, that is $311,000. That includes quite a few economic development incentives to local companies. Many of those are existing companies who have expanded. And that's always good news. The library, the airport, the Council of Governments our incentives for the DIG projects, which are the hotel and the Alpine Mill mixed-use project, and then continuing to support Greenway transportation. That $745,000 equates to 3 cents on the tax rate. So it takes 3 cents of our taxes to pay for this. I will tell you, in addition to this, we are continuing to do about $7,500 a year worth of work with Public Works, our grounds crews at the library to help them maintain their grounds. And then the Foothills number includes $6,600 that all 4 participating governments are looking to budget for an industry analysis report and study to try to target new industry that could use the airport property. And that's a really good thing. Okay. General fund. So that's the one that's not utilities. So everybody that's not utilities. 36 million, and looking at an increase from last year. And again, you're going to see that is a lot of capital. We have $11 million proposed to you for general fund capital this year. We usually run somewhere between 5 and 6 million, so it's a rather large year. I think what this does, it recognizes that we want to continue providing quality services. We want to continue making investments in the quality of life and the activities and the lifestyle that is offered here. And we want to attract new development and new people. We're fortunate. We are another year post-COVID. I don't know if we'll ever stop talking about COVID, but we are still seeing the numbers of people using our recreation facilities. The mayor talked about all of the youth in the recent baseball and softball programming, the downtown and events happening there, the community house, all of those departments are continuing to see more and more people come back and use the facilities, which is really great for our community. And those are people here and groups from outside as well. I will tell you that we need 1 to 2% growth in population each year to sustain ourselves. And while we saw some growth in this last census in Morganton, we are not having explosive growth, and we aren't really meeting that 1 to 2%. So we have to figure out a way to do that. So the big news and what everybody wants to know is how much are their taxes going to go up, because we are in a tax revaluation year. So if you listen to the county manager's presentation for an hour and a half of his budget message, I will not talk that long, but it's important stuff. The county has revalued property. Statutorily, that is their requirement, and they have to do that at least once every 8 years, and they are on a 4-year cycle. And when they do that, the picture can be different. This year, our real property, so again, we're talking about land and buildings and real property, on average in Morganton, that increased 45.24%. Comparison, in 2019 when we did that, that increase was 9%. So, big change. So if we collected exactly the same amount of dollars in tax money that we are looking to collect this year with the new property values, we would set that tax rate at 43 cents. That's called revenue neutral. I am proposing to you that we drop our current tax rate from 57 cents to 50 cents per $100 value, and we are assuming a 98% collection rate on our taxes, and you'll see that's about where we're running in the current year. 1 cent on that tax rate would generate almost $245,000. So why 50 cents, and what are we going to do with that money? So that will generate in total $12.2 million in tax revenue. That is about 33% of our general fund expenses. So tax revenue is not the only revenue that we have in the general fund to help us pay the bills. That is $1.8 million more in revenue than what we believe we're going to collect between now and June 30th of this year. So the projects I am proposing that are included in this budget to use that $1.8 million for, $500,000 worth of street resurfacing. We did $800,000 this year. This is another large chunk and double what we have done in previous years. But as you know, we really don't have many streets that couldn't use some work. Public safety vehicles. So normally we would purchase public safety vehicles and we would finance those through a bank and we would pay for them over 3 years. As a matter of fact, we have done that for the past couple of years. And now we can't get them. Orders nationally have been canceled. We are on our 3rd round of trying to get the cars that we originally ordered, and we have to keep going back for something else and something else. We borrowed that money, and now I'm making an interest payment for product I don't have yet, because after a year, we have to start making payments. That really stresses out this finance girl a whole lot. And so I am recommending that due to the shortages, due to the challenge in even getting them, that we buy them outright next year. That's $655,000. We continue to plan for all the work at Bethel Park. We've collected or been awarded about just under $2 million in grant funding, but we still have to match all of that, another $200,000 to go ultimately toward the PARTIF grant, which is for completing the activities and the amenities in the park. Comma design, and we'll talk a little bit about comma. We've just gone through the master plan, and we have adopted a master plan, and so we are looking at some improvements to comma for the patrons' experience and for the facility. $250,000 will provide the architectural and design services and get that ready to go out to bid. And we need to get that done ahead of going to the state to ask if we can borrow the money to do the rest of the project. 2 things that we would like to continue: restaurant recruitment downtown. We just were successful a few months back in awarding some of those dollars. We've budgeted for several years, and during the last several, it has been hard to get folks to take that. I think people will agree we definitely can use more restaurants in downtown, and so we'd like to go after some more. The other thing is housing stimulus, and that is to help construct streets, new streets, and help a developer if they are building a single-family residential neighborhood. And we think all of those are important. That's $1.9 million. That takes us a little over the extra $1.8 million. But those are the projects I would identify that we'd like to use the additional revenue for. So the downtown district has seen a property value increase of almost 41%. And that's pretty significant. I think part of that is indicative of our downtown master plan and the projects and the investments that have occurred after that plan in 17-18 and the continuation of that. That tax rate's currently 14 cents per $100 value. At 10 cents, we would be revenue neutral, and proposing that we decrease that to 12 cents, 98% collection rate. I will also tell you that this is the first time in a reval year that we have ever recommended lowering that rate. It has changed several years, but we have never lowered it in a revaluation rate that I can remember. 1 cent on that generates just $10,000. All of that generates $165,000 in total revenue, and that will help to fund 12% of the Main Street budget next year. And that's at 12 cents. Capital, we talked about that. It's $11.5 million almost. We've already talked about Bethel Park. So the comma renovations, so those are phase 1 and phase 2. It deals with some handicap accessibility and some changes in the auditorium proper. It deals with some of the back of house type, again, access, being able to service the shows and the folks coming in to use the facility to present to the patrons. It deals with some sound, audio, lighting, all the systems that basically need to be upgraded. So they have been there. What we have has been there since the beginning, since we built the facility. Courthouse Square renovations, that would be shared equally with Burke County, and that has to do with painting and repair to the cupola. The window replacement project is getting ready to start now, right? And the county is sharing that expense with us. Freedom Park tennis courts. They are also old and they need to be rebuilt. And we have met with the schools, and of course, that's a shared facility. And so they are going to partner with us on doing that, and they will supply $115,000 of the $350,000 to do that. North Green Street streetscape. So that's 2.5 blocks of additional streetscape, sidewalk planning, sidewalk landscaping, pavers, that sort of thing. We have applied for a $900,000 grant that would go toward that project. We don't know if we'll get that yet, but the rest of the money would come from the general fund, and the utilities have budgeted their own money in order to do that. So these are just some key revenues that occur in the general fund. I will tell you that those are about $145,000 more than what we think we're going to get this year. The star of the show is definitely sales tax at almost $6.8 million. That continues to grow. We have budgeted between this year and next year another 3% growth in sales tax. Concerning in the fact that we don't control that, concerning in the fact that that now makes up half of our property taxes. Property taxes and sanitation rates are the only two things in the general fund that are big revenues that we control. All the rest of this is out of our control. You'll see the state shared revenues there, the state collected revenues that they share with us. ABC continues to be a good number. Folks continue to drink, and we continue to get the profit off that. Occupancy tax also is showing us that we are having visitors and folks staying here. Our hotels are busy. We could use another one, and the others there are pretty much even with where we've been. The general fund includes an appropriation of our savings in order to make it balance of right at $115,000. That does not in any way put your 35% fund balance policy in jeopardy. And it may or may not come to pass. Obviously, these are guesses, and that's a very comfortable number to assume to use out of savings. So now we'll go to the utility funds. So we'll start with water. So water is $11.7 million. We have seen 3% increase in usage from last year to this year. I'd say we've probably now reached our pre-COVID levels. We believe that, and we believe that to be fairly consistent. And I think that's good news. The challenging news is that is not outpacing the rise in the expenses that we're seeing in chemicals, that we're seeing in materials, and that we're having to spend in order to treat our water. You recall that 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, gosh, I can't even remember now, we did a rate study. And the rate study encouraged us each year to do a small increase in rates in order to keep up. During COVID, we did not do any of that. And this is our second rate increase that we have proposed since 2018. Looking at a 5% on our volume charges, those are your variable charges based on your usage, and then a 5% change in our fixed charges. Those would be effective August 1st for a household, to make it real for people. If you use 5,000 gallons of water a month, what that means is that you would have your bill increase by $1.85 a month. Still super low water rates. But we really have to start doing some of these in order to be able to keep up and to keep our fund solvent. Large capital, $6 million. Yes, we are still talking about sedimentation, coagulation, and flocculation. We have tried now 3 different ways to seek state money and grant funding for $4.1 million to do that project. We've got one more hope that hopefully we'll find out a positive answer on as the General Assembly adopts a budget this year. If not, we will be borrowing this money, so it will come in as a revenue and then an expenditure either way. Appropriating $55,000 in order to make this fund balance. Electric fund, 28.6 million. So we are receiving a wholesale rate decrease from the power agency of about 4% is what Morganton should net. We are proposing to pass on to our customers an average decrease of 1.75. That will range, depending on the class of customer, from about 1.25 to about 2.4, 2.5. Second year in a row that we've done that. As a matter of fact, over the last 4 years, we've done 3 reductions and 1 hold steady. Pretty amazing when you look at everything. Nationally right now, electric rates are increasing 15%, and we are passing on another small rate decrease or recommending that. The budget includes tree trimming at $288,000, a smaller CIP than we've had the last several years with the large substation project going on. 2.3 includes some downtown work with the North Green Street upgrades, some underground upgrades in neighborhoods, and then in general, a lot of system improvements. Asking to appropriate $81,000 out of savings there to make that budget work. So our wastewater fund, our sewer fund, much the same as water, except that everything there is even more expensive. A $12.8 million budget. Again, we're seeing a 3% increase in usage, rising cost, rising chemicals. You know that story. Proposing again August 1st, 2023, 5% average on volume charges and 5% on fixed. So to a household using 5,000 gallons of water, that would be $2.31 a month for your sewer bill increase. Still really low rates comparatively across the state. Large capital here, $7.5 million, almost $7.6 million. Yes, the Silver Creek pump station. So earlier tonight, we are accepting $1.1 million and some change toward that project. We are seeking the remainder of that through a state process. It is our 3rd attempt to get funding. And once again, just like the water project, if we do not, then we will be coming back to you, getting approval from the state and asking to borrow that money through a financing. We've got treatment plant upgrades totaling about $1 million in there. And then, what I didn't say for water and sewer, so we budgeted $200,000 in water and sewer to help support the housing stimulus. So if we have additional single-family developments that are occurring, then we would help with the water and sewer cost if they qualify through this funding. And did I say that we need more housing? And did I say that we need 1 to 2% growth in our population in order to make it? What did we appropriate there? Sorry, $40,000, a little over $40,000 in savings. Compass, bright spot, again, I think, a $6.2 million budget. We are continuing to see increases in our business and residential internet. It has slowed down a little bit, but it is still continuing every month. For the 2nd year in a row, and this is big news, we are recommending no increase in the video and the cable TV piece of it. 2nd year in a row. No increases in phone service. I will tell you that the TV piece of that, this will not be the story next year, because in the fall we have to renegotiate the retransmission fees with the Channel 9s, the Channel 3s, the Charlotte stations, and such, and that is never pretty. Continuing to tweak internet speeds, consolidating those, doing away with some of our lower levels, and looking with some improvements that we've been making later in the year to be able to offer gig service, and are proposing offering that at $109.95 a month, which is a very competitive price. Capital there, continued investment in the system, continued investment at the head end, and also continuing to do these with a focus on the ability in the future and fairly near future to be able to offer streaming service. So we continue to move steps closer to that. Appropriating savings of $87,000 there in order to make that work. Cemetery Trust Fund, where we accumulate funds to take care of the cemetery. Selling lots and niches, we're estimating 20,000, and that's a balanced budget. No capital there. Last year, we paved part of it, and we will probably get back to doing some of that next year, but no capital there in the upcoming budget. The intergovernmental fund, which is where our IT, warehouse, and garage sit, that serves all the other departments, $3 million budget. IT, just about 1.5, most of that in contracted services for software, hardware, licensing, all of those things. Warehouse, 685,000. Inventory, 680 is the budget for that. You're looking at an increase of $70,000 over what we've done this year. And then garage, if you look at fuel purchases, we're looking at an increase of $100,000 based on where we've done budget amendments in the last little bit for a total of $525,000. We'll get back to that and see if that does us for the year. We'll tell you the other thing going on. So we are changing software with our billing and collection system. And we are being forced to do that. We partner with a group, and Electricities actually hosts that for us, and there's some changes being made. It's a big project. It's budgeted in here, but it is a great project because what it is going to allow us to do once we get to that point is streamline our online payments, look at being able to accept more credit card payments, to do that in a more efficient way, to be more customer friendly when you go to pay online. And yes, to our realty friends, our Burke County realtor friends, ultimately you will be able to see if the taxes have been paid on a piece of property without having to talk to any of us. So that is one of the larger projects budgeted in here. And then we have the ever exciting ARPA, and actually this is a good story. So a couple years ago, we received a direct appropriation of $4.8 million, a little over 4.8, in direct funding from the federal government in the Recovery and Rescue Plan. At that time, you decided that what we would do with that money, although we're happy to have it, as you've seen from tonight, $5 million does not go far, is that we would reinvest that in assets, and we would spend that in capital assets and things, not just regular expenses. So what we have done thus far, we have done some sludge system upgrades at the wastewater plant. That's exciting. $305,000. We are in the process of completing a wash station at the garage services facility for $652,580. And you recall that is required for us to continue with our state permitting and be approved. We did resurfacing work, $800,000 on streets around town this last year. A little bit left to do in that contract to get finished up very shortly. We are holding $1,700,000 for the Highway 181 sewer upgrade to allow some housing to happen on that end of town. You'll recall we received a Dogwood Trust grant to match those dollars. That project is about to go on the streets and go out for bid, so we are all holding our breaths. I am under no illusion that that will be enough money after everything that has happened, so we'll be talking about that again. We restored the Mountain View gym floor and used $80,000 of this, and I'm proposing in this budget that we do 3 new playground pieces and that we use these dollars and we do those at Freedom Park, Carbon City Park, and the soccer complex, replacing the original playground that was out there. And that totals $250,000, leaving us $1,058,000 as we get the bids for the Highway 181 sewer. We'll be talking about that. Recall that we are required to have this money obligated by December of 2024, and we're required to have it spent by December of 2026. And it's a challenge to make all of these things happen. That's why Rob doesn't have any hair.
Yeah.
our ARPA man. Personnel included in here, so there's a 5% cost of living adjustment that would go into effect in July for city employees, a 2% merit increase for employees who qualify after a performance appraisal process in March of 2024, continuing looking at a third of our positions each year and marking those to market. 3 additional full-time positions, a stormwater administrator, an executive fire officer position, and then water resources D&C operator position. All of those funded in the numbers we've talked about tonight. I cannot say how important it is to pay our people. They are being pilfered by other entities. It is easy for people to leave and to go somewhere else now, and they are doing it. And it is tough. And there are some positions that are just, Russ still has hair, but he tries to pull it out most days, but because it is becoming very difficult to attract and maintain employees. And, you know, we want to attract and maintain quality employees because that's what our citizens deserve, because we need to be able to give them the services they're paying for. No contribution to OPEB, continue funding law enforcement separation allowance, insurance cost, and retirement. So you're glad I'm getting to the end, aren't you? So first of all, I have to say, obviously this takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and it doesn't happen in a day or two. And I have to say thank you to Jessie for everything that she does to pull this together, to keep me on track, to make it happen. To Kate, who's spent hours in there with us talking and evaluating and guessing, because there's a lot of guesswork to this. To the department directors. They continue to be frugal, but they continue to recognize the need for investment. And they continue to recognize the need to spend money on the right things, and I really appreciate that. To you guys, because you're a consistent piece of all of this, I thank you for that. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you information, to give you suggestions on how we can continue to invest in the city of Morganton. I think we're still balancing our financial responsibility with moving forward and doing the kinds of things that we have to do to be a community of choice. Our citizens, they're a big part of this too, and we are so fortunate that they participate, they take part, and they believe in the community because they show up time and time again, and that is wonderful. So it's time for you to hear my movie, right? Because 25 years, Wendy was asking me, or 20-some years, right? We've done TV show one year, Louis reminded me. One year, I think I skipped it altogether. And most years, I have kind of brought this around to a movie. So this year, my movie is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in 2002. Yes, my family has rewatched all of the Harry Potter movies during COVID, and so it was fresh on my mind. And in that movie, Dumbledore, Professor Dumbledore, you know, the head guy, is giving advice to Harry. And he says, "It is not our abilities that show what we truly are, it is our choices." And for me, that describes what this budget does, and it describes what we've been doing the last several years. And we continue to make choices. I said in my budget message, and you know, there's Hogwarts and all its glory. Lots of communities have the opportunity to make choices to do great things. Lots of communities have the opportunity to make choices to reinvest in themselves, to reinvent themselves, to do things. Not all of them have the guts to do it or the staying power to do it. We do that over and over here because of you all, because of our community, and because of our staff. So I think that I will end with one more thing, because I think the perfect example of that, last year we had the Courthouse Square, and this year we have our Imagine Morganton 2040, our comprehensive land use plan. So that is a plan that takes a lot of information and spits back ideas on how Morganton can grow, how Morganton can change, how we can make Morganton better. The mayor already announced that in this room on Wednesday night at 5:30, there is a public meeting to take input for that. There's a website, there's surveys, there's going to be paper surveys, there's going to be all kinds of pop-up events and opportunities over the next 12 to 15 months to take community input. You all have appointed 29 people from our community that sit on a committee to help guide this and advise this process. They represent a broad spectrum of this community with their contacts, with their work situations, with their faith situations, with their kids, with everything that makes their lives up. We need to listen to them, but we need our community to also be involved and to take part in that, because that's how we dream, plan, and act. We have a dream, we create a plan, and then we set a budget and we act on it. So, I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you all. Except for asking you to call for a public hearing.
Well, any comments from council before we make that call? Sally, we got some information before the meeting here. I noticed our Performing Arts Center had 17 events in May. That's just
Yes.
really remarkable. Over 14,000 people have been there this year already, which is
Correct.
truly amazing. And those who sort of criticized the occupancy tax and building a hotel downtown, I was on the square Friday night, and 60 people showed up for a wedding. They took 60 rooms Friday night and Saturday. It was really pretty amazing. Our occupancy tax really has done well. And I noticed that I believe our community house in May had over $39,500 in revenue coming in.
It's like a December month.
It really has done well for Morganton. Any other comments from council?
No, just thankful for the staff and for the finance department for putting together such a difficult budget, because we are progressive, but at the same time, we have to hold the line
We do.
and make sure that we are stable at the same time.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to call for a public hearing on the proposed budget on Monday, June 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Have a motion to have a second. Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we do have some more business. We have a public hearing to consider the approval of an economic development agreement with True West under the Housing Stimulus Program. We are in public hearing. I'm going to call on our city attorney to give us some information.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually an exciting opportunity because many of you will remember that the property at 300 Fletcher Street was once the site of, let's just say, a less than ideal residential neighborhood, namely a mobile home park which had fallen on very hard times and which the city spent considerable amount in cleaning up. Fortunately, True West LLC, a group with local owners, purchased this property, and they anticipate developing on it a townhome development. This is a total of about 7 acres of property, and they have requested, or they have applied for, I should say, a loan under the city's housing stimulus program, for which you all have budgeted for the current year, current fiscal year, $150,000 each for extending water infrastructure and for extending sewer infrastructure. There's also money for street extensions, but that doesn't apply to this particular property. True West is seeking, has requested the maximum $5,000 for each unit for water and for sewer. and they anticipate 27 units. So if you do the multiplication, that would mean a maximum of 135,000 to extend water and 135,000 to extend sewer. And when I say extend, I'm talking about to the residences from, we have a water line in Fletcher Street, and there's a sewer line that runs behind the property. So there's no new sewer mains or water mains being constructed. This is extending it into the development. And True West has submitted estimates from contractors that the cost of those projects would exceed $135,000 each, which, because you're limited to the maximum being what you would actually spend. The program, as you know, the stimulus program provides for no-interest loans secured by a deed of trust on the property, and as each unit is sold, then half of the loan for that unit would be repaid and half is forgiven, turning it into a grant. The loan would be for 7 years, and the deed of trust for 7 years. If at the end of that time there are some unsold units, then that money would, half of that money would have to be paid back even if the unit wasn't sold. No other application has been received this fiscal year, so this would use most of the money that you've appropriated for those purposes, but that's great. That's what we want to hear. This is an economic development incentive, so that's why you have to have a public hearing. I believe representatives of True West are here this evening if there are any questions, and I think that's all I have to say.
We are in a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak towards this project? Yes, come forward.
Are these gonna be market rate?
If you'll come forward and identify yourself and where you live.
Ann Moncrief, would these be market rate? Are they entry level?
It's
Are they
my-
workforce?
It's my understanding these are market rate units.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Public hearing is now closed. What's the wish of council?
Motion to award to True West LLC loans under the Single Family Housing Stimulus Program in the amount of $135,000 for extension of water service and $135,000 for the extension of sanitary sewer service for a project to construct 27 townhomes at 300 Fletcher Street, to enter into an economic development agreement with True West LLC governing such loan and the terms under which part of the loans may be converted to grants, and further authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute any necessary documents.
Thank you, Chris. Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Butch, thank you so much. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I realize I should have added a couple of things, just to be clear, since we use that term "single family" on several occasions. These are to be townhouses. That classifies as single family because each unit, even if there's a building where they might share a wall, each unit is sold separately. And of course, this is only if it's sold. These are not rental. You would not get the loan for a rental property.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns?
I just, Ronnie, it's wonderful to have private investors come in and work with the city with the need for housing being so great right now and without having to go after HUD money or things like that. So I'm grateful we have this in our budget. I'm glad we have it in next year's budget, and I hope that that will encourage others to take the risk.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have another public hearing to consider rezoning request submitted by Arley Incorporated to rezone 8.04 acres. We are now open for public hearing. I'll call on Wendy to please give us some information.
Yes, so Chad, if you could put up attachment A on the screen. So this shows you roughly where the property is. It is 0 Sanford Drive, but it's basically the corner of Sanford Drive, Highway 18, Lenore Road, Highway 64, depending on what your preference is to call that one street that day. It is a currently undeveloped property. It is bounded across the intersections by Grace Ridge, North Morganton United Methodist Church, and Kirksey Funeral Home. that kind of helps you see where it is. It's surrounded to the north and the west by city recreation property. It is currently located, as are the recreation properties, in Zone MID, which allows a range of commercial and residential development. There is a river district overlay over the front road adjacent portions of the property, and Airlie Incorporated has proposed to rezone that to HID, but keeping the river district overlay. The differences in the two zones are a range of uses that could be allowed by right in there, as well as a slightly higher density and height limits. So should they choose to do residential, we would get a bit more density in that area. Chad, if you could change it to attachment C. This is the future land use map in our current Morganton 2030 plan, where that site and the surrounding sites are designated as recreational uses. Now, the city properties have covenants on them restricting them to to recreational uses. I can't really tell you the background about why this was recreational, other than it is connected to the other surrounding parcels. However, it's highly unusual that private land is developed for recreational purposes in there. So it seems to be an oddity in that it's not really in keeping with the other surrounding development that we mentioned. Grace Ridge is up on the ridge and is 5-6 stories tall over there, which would be in keeping with the proposal to rezone it to HID. There's also, if you can see on this map, some quite larger parcels in the South Sanford Drive area there that could also potentially be developed for that much-needed housing that Sally mentioned earlier in the meeting. It is our understanding that the developer's intent is to develop this with housing. However, if you rezone it, it could be developed with any of those things in the HID, provided it met the remainder of the requirements in the zoning ordinance. They may choose to do a commercial on the ground floor with apartments above that. There's a range of different the uses that could be permitted in there. However, given that it's unlikely to ever be developed as recreational open space from a private ownership standpoint, any traffic impacts from any future development will be addressed at that point in time and could be mitigated by developer actions in there. The development of the site with multi-story, multifamily uses or other non-residential commercial uses would be in keeping with that surrounding development of those other uses that I detailed that are right beside of it. If it is developed with high-density housing, that would fulfill a significant need in the community. And the developers were very strong on wanting to preserve that river district overlay to maintain that character in there and to limit the impacts upon the neighboring properties and upon the streetscape and everyone that would be viewing the property as they drive by. So the Planning and Zoning Committee unanimously recommended at their last month's meeting support for this rezoning. If you do support the rezoning, there's an automatic change in the future land use map to match that rezoning.
Questions? I have a question. Chad, could you pull up slide number 2, please? Wendy, any idea where they would have ingress and egress? Would it be Lenore Road or would it be Sanford?
It would be Sanford Drive. Both of those are DOT roads, so
Right.
they would have the final say over that. But given the topography and the short nature of Lenore Road, I cannot see anybody offering an access off of Lenore Road. So probably much farther down towards the extreme western extent of the property on Sanford Drive.
The other question is, if you look at the proposed zoning, the area in yellow, or surrounded by yellow, north of that is that not the mountain bike trail?
It is.
So this does not affect the mountain bike trail?
There is a portion of the mountain bike trail that is on this property.
Right.
However, rezoning it just changes the set of uses that you could potentially choose to do on the site, but makes no changes to what is on the ground today. And whether or not those bits and pieces would stay, that is on there.
Okay. Other questions? This is a public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment that I belong at North Morganton United Methodist, and the reactions to people that I have discussed it with have been very positive.
Thank you, Butch. Other questions? Anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this project? Public hearing is now closed. What's the wish of council? Wendy, thank you for a great presentation.
Make a motion to approve rezoning of 0 Sanford Drive from medium intensity district MID with the River District overlay to high intensity district HID with the River District overlay, which is inconsistent with the adopted Mission 2030 comprehensive plan, but is considered suitable as the subject site is unlikely to develop as recreational open space and therefore in consistency with the Mission 2030 comprehensive plan. Future land use map is appropriate. Traffic impacts from future development can be mitigated. The development of the site with multi-story, multifamily uses or other non-residential commercial uses can be considered to be in keeping with surrounding development and the character of surrounding uses. The additional density available in HID should the site be developed with housing, would fulfill a significant community need, and preserving the River District overlay will provide some use and design restrictions to limit impacts upon neighboring properties and the streetscape.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any further discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next we have a consideration of award for the Catawba River Soccer Complex Greenway Realignment Project. Sally, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
So there's going to be some future stream bank stabilization that's going to happen there based on some degradation that has occurred, and that's going to occur at a later date. In order to do that, we are relocating part of the greenway and installing new so that we won't have the issue again with this part. It's about 300 linear feet. To that effort, Development Design received informal bids on May the 25th. We received 4 bids from contractors. The lowest one was submitted by M&K Enterprises, LLC of Lenore. That bid's been reviewed. We do believe it to be responsible and responsive, and so would recommend that you consider awarding that contract in the amount of $33,599.41 to M&K Enterprises. Those funds are coming from the recreation budget.
Sally, is this part of the greenway that is caved off into Silver Creek? I know there's a barrier there, so
That is correct.
Okay.
Down on that end.
what's the wish of council?
I'll enter the motion to authorize and contract with M&K Enterprises LLC of Lenore, North Carolina, in the amount of $33,599.41 to perform the Catawba River Soccer Complex Greenway Realignment Project, and to authorize the mayor and the city manager to execute such contract and any other necessary documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consideration of appointment to the Cable Television Commission. Sally?
Yes, so we have several vacancies on that commission. We have received applications since we printed this. Those were put before you tonight. One of those is for an NCSD representative, and one of those is for an at-large representative.
Okay. What's the wish of council? These are the handouts that we got earlier.
They are, Aaron Denny is the IT director at NCSD and has been suggested by Mark Patrick and has agreed to serve on this board representing them. And then Leslie Cothran has agreed to serve as an at-large member.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to reappoint Susan Shello.
No, we're in the wrong.
No.
Different one.
We skipped.
Oh, I'm on the
No,
wrong one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have a boatload of appointments
Yeah.
this month. So if you're interested, the appointment would be for Aaron Denny and Leslie Cothran.
For the
make-
cable TV.
To the cable TV.
Right, so make a motion to appoint Leslie Cothran and Aaron Denny to the cable.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is the Community Appearance Advisory. Sally. This is a mayoral appointment, and I move to reappoint Martha Franklin, Leslie Geezy, and James Bagley to the Community Appearance Advisory Commission for a 3-year term to expire June 1st, 2026. Our next is a mayoral appointment to the Main Street Advisory Board. I reappoint Ben Belton, Dr. Bryant Lindsay, Eddie McGimpsey, Marcus McGimpsey, and Pete Wallace to the Main Street Advisory Board to 3-year terms to expire on June 30th, 2026, and appoint Scott Brooks to a 3-year term to expire on June 30th, 2026. That's a mayoral appointment. And next, we have a city council appointment to planning and zoning. Sally?
We have 3 terms that are expiring. Aaron Kaiser, Don Smith Jr., and Rick Lingerfelt. All 3 of these folks have indicated a willingness to continue serving, especially since we have just started the comprehensive land use plan process. You have also received an application from another person. John Day has submitted that, and that is included in your packet.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to reappoint Aaron Kaiser, Donald Smith Jr., and Rick Lingerfelt to the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3-year terms to expire on June 1st, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have appointments to the Recreation Advisory Commission. It is a city council appointment. Sally?
Yes, so there are 2 individuals who have 3-year terms expiring, and that is Reverend John Hagman and Mike Hassan. Both of these have indicated a willingness to continue serving if you so desire.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to reappoint Reverend John Hagman and Mike Hassan to the Recreation Advisory Commission for terms to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Thank you, Wendy. Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. And consideration of appointment to the ABC Board. It's a council appointment. And Sally?
Yes, so this appointment comes up in August. Normally, we would do this notice at July. Steve Gregory is the term that is expiring, is currently serving as the chairman, has indicated an interest in continuing to serve on that board. So you can wait until August and do it, or you can do it now.
What's the wish of council?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Steve Gregory as chairman to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board for a term to expire on August 5th, 2020.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We gotta go back and pick
one
up.
more.
Board of
Susan
Adjustment.
Shell.
Board of Adjustment.
First, should have been the first one.
Very first one.
I tried to skip it and you forgot.
Well, what's the wish of council? Sally?
I can tell you why, because it's not in your booklet.
Okay,
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, you do, but he doesn't, it's not in mine either.
okay. Sally, would you tell us, it's a city council appointment?
I would tell you, it is a city council appointment, and we have 1 term that is expiring, and that is Susan Shelor, who has participated and been a member of that and has not indicated that she would not like to continue serving.
What's the wish of council?
Now I can say it. Motion to reappoint Susan Shelor on the Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term expiring on June 3rd, 2026.
Thank you, Wendy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else to come before city council? I'd just like to say thanks to our department heads and staff for a great job on the budget presentation. We will have a vote coming later in June. And anything else to come before? Okay, we are adjourned.